Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I first would like to tell you why I am here supporting this campaign for a no to the Lisbon Treaty. I lived an experience in the European Union. I was not a politician. I was not Eurosceptic. I was not Europhile. I was a bean counter. I was an accountant. I went to the European Union thinking that I was going to perform my profession, my professional responsibility. I had heard about the resignation of the European Commission under the presidency of Mr. Santer, Jacques Santer, because of financial irregularities. I had also heard a lot of publicity about the reforms that the European Commission was undertaking to do away with all these irregularities. So to tell you the truth, when I was appointed Chief Accountant of the European Union, after a cumbersome recruitment process that took 8 months, I felt very proud. And I thought I was going to make a big contribution to an honest and big project. When I joined in January 2002, it didn't take me too long to realize that it was not what I had expected. That none of these reforms that they were publicizing so widely was taking place. And I saw fundamental weaknesses in the accounting system. I saw that the system really didn't have the minimum controls that you would expect in the accounting system, even the one you use for the ice cream kiosk in your corner. So I thought I had a big job, and I set out to communicate with the hierarchy what my proposals were for this job, for this reform, with a lot of enthusiasm. And one by one, all my proposals were turned down. Some because there was no money, the other because there was no time, or whatever. And, but I didn't give up, and I kept insisting in making these reforms. In parallel with this, I started to get pressure on signing payments out of the European Union budget. At that time, the European Union budget was the equivalent of 100 million euros, a big amount. And I would be asked to sign payments for amounts ranging between 1 or 2 billion euros, not a very significant amount. And when I started to put questions on where the money was going, for what purpose the money was going, all I got was silence. Silence for 1 day, silence for 2 days, silence for 3 days. So I felt the obligation to start to withhold payments for which I couldn't have a clear explanation. And instead, continued my pressure on reforms. Obviously, this was not very well taken, and the pressure continued in many forms, including being, followed home and being controlled in all my movements within the buildings of the European Commission, and even outside, going to the apartment where I was living in Brussels. The situation became quite critical when I discovered that there was a difference between two sets of accounts of 200 million euros, for which they couldn't give me an explanation, other than saying these were loans we gave to the countries, and that they cannot pay anymore, so we are writing them off. We are just eliminating their existence. They never existed. I was surprised because I said, well, this is money of the European taxpayers that has gone out for a certain purpose. Where is the money? Why is it that these people cannot return the money? So I realized, and I'm entering into a bit of a complex explanation, accounting explanation, but basically what I realized, that even if the money has to go out of the budget, of our pre-approved budget, they had the ability to get money out of the European Union funds without giving any explanation, by just saying these are loans, and a couple of years later saying they cannot pay it anymore, they're gone. This really raised the alarms on how big the possibility of abuse and fraud was within the European Union budget. So I obviously got concerned, and I raised my concerns with the highest hierarchy. The highest hierarchy was the College of Commissioners. This also brought me a lot of monitoring, because even if as chief accountant, the Treaty of Rome establishes that the chief accountant has the highest responsibility on the European Union funds, and therefore is totally independent in the exercise of this responsibility, and only has to report to the College of Commissioners. The Director General of Budget, to whom I theoretically reported, he did not accept that I would go to the commissioners to explain what was going on. Anyway, I was wrong again in expecting that the European Commission, the commissioners themselves, would respond to my concerns. I wrote to basically two of the commissioners, the president at that time, Mr. Romano Prodi, and the vice president, Mr. Kinnock, whom I think you know well. I did demand a Treasury investigation to see, how the money was flowing out of the European budget, and they refused to give it to me, and the situation became so tense that they offered to put me into another post. The justification, and this offer was made during a meeting with Mr. Kinnock and the budget commissioner, a German lady called Mrs. Schreier. And the justification to move me out of the job was that I didn't get along with the budget commissioner, this German lady I referred to. However, the post they were offering me was also reporting to the German commissioner. And my logical reaction was to say, well, if you say I don't get along with the German commissioner, why are you changing me to another job where I need to report to her? And this prompted the fury, the real fury of Lord Kinnock of Medway. And he, just threatened me with dismissal if I didn't agree to this change in job, which I didn't agree to, basically. So